You spoke, it's a totally different tech compared to what we're used to in here in the agricultural side of things, and you spoke about the media, John, that you have a vision that agriculture in Ireland can sequester an awful lot more carbon as well as producing the stock or keeping the stock that we have and maybe having more. You're putting it out there as basically, you know, a new way of going forward compared with all the other stuff we hear out there. How long do you believe it will take us to attain to this?
So the first thing, I mean, you know, Richard, our Chief Executive, has clearly articulated the need to do these baselines, because when you do this baseline, you actually, for the first time, get a true inventory at an individual farm business level, what carbon is on what farm. That's never been done before, okay? When you do it, you actually come up with some extraordinary figures. You know, and in a soil, it can be anything from 50 to 300 tons of carbon per hectare. It really depends, is it a mineral soil, is it an organic soil? So when you do that, the one thing you learn is there is an awful lot of carbon sitting out on farms, and farmers don't get credit for it. So we believe you need to bring a light on that, because actually what all farmers do is they manage the nation's carbon. And that, at the moment, is not recognised. We ask farmers to produce good quality food and we reward them for that. We're now asking them to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions and increase the carbon stocks. Currently, that isn't recognised. And we need to get to a policy and regulatory system through some kind of partnership, a public-private partnership, that allows, first of all, what quantity have we got, and how to, in the case of peat soils, reduce what we lose, in the case of mineral soils, increase more, how we get hedges and trees, you know, could we have a campaign to remove electric fences and put hedges back again? You know, really looking at practical ways that are very visible that will also deliver for biodiversity. You know, so there's a collection of things, but I do think we need to turn the narrative, the dial on the narrative, from that farmers are the worst in the world, that the pariah, to farmers are the custodian of the nation's carbon. What can we do to get them to store more carbon?
In relation to the mixed species, and we were lucky enough to have seen it, in relation to the mixed species, what's the story in relation to, I always understood that when you put nitrogen onto red clover, you kill it. What's the story?
So, yes, you're using nitrogen on it. As I said, we're using 70 kilos of nitrogen, but what we do, we're putting the nitrogen on, Deputy Fitzmaurice, in the spring and in the back end of the year when the legumes aren't as active or where they're not fixing as much nitrogen. So what we're doing is we're augmenting them, and we're not causing as much harm.
So it doesn't do harm to the red clovers in spring?
No, it's not that we're seeing in our trial.
In the line of silage, can you make pit silage? I know with round bales you were saying it had to wilt a good bit. Yeah. Can you make pit, and will it turn out good?
Yes, you can make pit silage. In fact, actually, to pit it or to make pit silage out of the multi-species sward is a better way of doing it than the bale silage. And
will the DMD be okay and all that? Yeah.
Yes, when making silage out of multi-species swards, because the dry matter is lower in the herbs. In the sward, you just have to wilt it that bit longer. So the standard wilt would be, say, anything from 12 hours to 24 hours. We'd recommend at least 30, if not maybe 36 hours of a wilt to get the dry matter up as best you can.
Right. And when you talk about the length, and this is one thing that when I'm talking to farmers, they talk about, some farmers will say, and this is one thing I think that needs to be nailed down. Some farmers will say that one time ago when red clover was being used, you had a bit of basically swelling in some of the cattle. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
I think that is it because of the other species that's in it? is eliminating that problem? And is it the length of life of it is the other thing? And does it accept lime the same as the ordinary grass that we grow at the moment?
So first, I suppose, on the red clover, maybe we're referring to bloat, so bloat in the cows. Look, in our experiment, because the animal is on it's assigned to its sward at the start, so it is on multi-species sward for its lifetime, so it's not changing its diet. Bloat happens in animals when they go on to clover-rich swards after maybe being on a bare sward.
Right.
So because they were eating it all the time, they don't get that effect. And the other thing to do is, look, there are standard management techniques out there that can get over that anyway. So the use of bloat oils, making sure that you're not putting hungry cattle onto the swards, etc. So we can manage that. As John said earlier on, we would recommend that you sort of put groups on the multi-species and try and keep them there, or have them there for a length of time.